Yo, what's poppin' guys, Sizzle here. Before Season 9 drops and potentially gives the support passive to other heroes and greatly changes the balance of the game, I want to talk about the last support hero that I haven't talked about so far, and he's also probably my favorite support hero in Lucio. Lucio is one of those supports that for me really embodies the term support. He's not focused on doing ludicrous amounts of damage like Zen, Malari, Bap, and Kiriko. He's not focused on having ludicrous amounts of heals like Lifeweaver, right? Or Moira, I guess. He's focused on supporting the team in unique ways, and for him, that is his speed. Where you can see if I press left shift, I can swap between speed and heals. You could also see like a little border right there. It's actually a big circle all the way around me. That's the area around me that my effects apply to. Which is either speed or heals. You can also wall ride and chain wall rides together to get a bunch of speed, do a bunch of fancy shit, and maneuver around the map. Gives him very high mobility, makes him very hard to hit. He also has one of the better like dash dances, or I guess people call it, AD strafes, where if he goes side to side, you can't see it in first person, but he becomes very hard to hit when you do stuff like this without pressing W. It's a very unique animation thing in Overwatch in general. Yeah, you can see from here. Right, I put the healing aura on, heal him a little bit. If I press E, it amplifies what I'm currently doing. So if I press E here, you can see it amplifies the heals for a little bit, and now the amplification's done for a while. If I did the same thing with speed, I could amplify speed. Generally what you do with this hero is kind of speed people around, speed people in, speed in with your team, speed out with your team, speed around on your own, and maybe dive their backline a little, either on your own with very few people. You can see, right, nice easy speed. His last ability is his boop, which boops people, does knockback, does a small amount of damage. Generally nowadays, because tanks all are resistant to getting booped, and a lot of other characters have a lot of mobility to kind of get back on the stage, I find myself using boop mainly to finish people off. Speaking of finishing people off, his main thing is a very slow projectile with no damage fall off that fires in bursts of 3. It's really hard to aim with a crosshair, which is why you can see my crosshairs at like 5% opacity, and I can barely see it, because I'm mainly focused on aiming the projectiles. It does have a headshot multiplier, does less to body, and generally, if you're having a hard time aiming it, it's very hard to aim at close range. You can kind of combine it with, you take some shots, you hit him with a quick melee, take some shots, hit him with a quick melee, and kind of keep going. But generally, you kind of use your wall rides to get around, fly around the map, speed around with your team, be very hard to hit, and just kind of support them, right? Lucio is like the embodiment of dive, or I guess brawl as well. He just sends it in with his team, speeds them in, you go in really quick, fast, and easy, take people out, or get taken out. Very fun hero, very fun to play as, very fun to play with, and honestly not bad to play against. With his very high mobility and crazy good dash dance, he can be very hard to hit at times, depending on the skill level of the Lucio and your own personal mechanical aim and the character that you're playing on. But generally, it's not in a way that feels unfair. It's kind of like when you're fighting a Tracer, where it's like, damn, this is really annoying, but at the same time, there's some drawback to it, where he has lower damage, right? He really doesn't kill people that fast generally. It's like, something around like this is the average damage, where you hit a few shots here and there, and kind of slowly poke your enemy to death, right? You're generally a supporting role, not a big damage dealer. Obviously, you can deal a lot of damage, a lot of good Lucios do, but yeah, that's that. And then his ult, he jumps up in the air for a sec, and then drops the beat, and it gives people a very temporary large burst of health. It can be useful for tanking big ultimates, things like Graviton Flux from Sigma, Graviton Surge from Zarya. If you get hit with a big Rhine Shatter and everyone's looking at all the rest of your team and you hit him with a beat, then it basically it can be used to either survive a big moment where the enemy's going to do a lot of damage to you, or as an initiator, right? You can basically start a fight by popping the ult, and then starting with so much health, you can just go in super recklessly, get in a lot of damage, and because of your very temporary high health, you can kind of abuse that to absolutely destroy the enemies. But yeah, with that out of the way, that's his basics. Obviously gets very complex. Wall riding in particular gets very complex. If you haven't played a lot of Lucio though, don't be on the floor. You just move really slow, very predictably, very easy. If you're on the wall, you move so much faster. Like, this is me just walking across here, right? Takes a while. This is me, doing one quick wall ride. Takes very quick. And you can chain them together, move around the map really fast, do some really cool rollouts out of spawn, and get some really funny boops off and stuff. Generally just a fun tier to play as, with, and against. Yeah, another thing I guess I probably should have mentioned is, if you are playing Lucio and you're newer to the hero, generally do not play Lucio with Mercy, Zenyatta, or Brig. There's like the big three you don't want to work with. I don't really want to explain it all right now, but their abilities don't work together well. Right? In the case of Zen and Brig, you have very low heals on Lucio. I did mention you have group heals, obviously, with this healing mode, and you can amp it up for like a smaller burst of decent heals. But even when you press E with Lucio and you do that burst of heals, you kind of heal just about as much as BAP. And the reason you don't want to do it with Mercy is because, she's focused on healing a single target, and you'll be responsible for the rest of the team, which basically means that your tanks can be blocked. Yeah. That's pretty much all I have to say about that. But overall, I already kind of gave my thoughts while I was explaining Lucio abilities. This is the character I basically won tricks to get to Masters on support for the first time. He's just very fun. I have a very fun time playing him. I play a bit more of a degenerate Lucio, not one that helps his team a lot. And this is not advice. You should not do this, but you can do it. It's called Red Lucio, where you just kind of send it the back line, do a bunch of goofy shit, and use your high movement and very hard to hit type of nature to kind of just chip down random people in the back line and just, int your games for fun in a way that you can maybe win off. Not a playstyle you should do. Like I said, don't recommend it. You're not going to start winning games by playing that way, but I found it very fun to do, and it's how I did most of my climbing. But yeah. The lower damage he has, the lower he heals, is also that you can focus on kind of speeding people around, surviving, and being annoying, the same way that a Tracer is. You can see right here, I can speed my Ryan in or out. I guess he wanted to go out at that moment, but I think he probably should have went in. We could have killed like 4 if he just went in on my seed. But then again, I didn't communicate that verbally, and it's his quick play, so this guy could be in any elo, and maybe didn't know that necessarily. You could also boot people to kind of put them in awkward positions, right, in places they don't want to be, and do that to kind of abuse them as well. Jesus Christ, there's so much going on my screen right now. I'm having a hard time keeping up. But yeah, I mean that's really all there's to say about him. I already talked about most of it, already. He's just fun. He's fun to move around on. His wall rides are very, very satisfying to get down. I haven't even perfected them yet, but as you get better, it's so fun to do all this rollouts and stuff. So fun to just fly around the map and kind of do whatever you want. You could also hold jump to kind of stick to a wall, but then you move slower and you don't get the same movement bonuses. I don't think I can keep up. Yeah, I'm lucky. Yeah, generally people go stuff like McCree with his auto-aim nade, Moira with their auto-aim in general. Or Torbjorn with his turret that will aim for you to kind of counteract your harsh movement on Lucio. Nice. It's a good shot by Widow. Oh, we do not have main heal. We just done a Baptiste. Hopefully my tank realizes this and just sends it. I can pop beat here to kind of keep him up a little bit more. Speed him in with beat. Right, this is an initiation beat where I use that extra health to go in with my Ryan. And my Ryan did go in, to be fair. We just still don't have heals. A lot of time between fights, you could kind of head back towards spawn if you kill the whole enemy team to try and do stuff like speed back a Baptiste or whatever, because obviously Lucio's heals don't cut it. You could see my run got taken out, pretty quick there. You also use your speed and sustain to kind of stealth boost your way out of there. Right, kind of juking the Skenji like that. He's just gonna keep chasing me, as most Skenjis love to do. You can see him living. Right, you can use that high mobility, it makes it very hard to hit you. And the more used to wall riding you get, the more fluid it all becomes, the more it starts to make sense. And the more you just start vibing when you're on this character. It's very interesting seeing how far this character can go. Wall rides have pretty much like a limitless potential. There's just so much you can do with them. Such a crazy movement thing. I tried speeding my tank out there. It would have been nice to have beat for this. Because of Beast's kind of temporary nature, it's really great at countering ults. Like, Blade, for example. I mentioned Flux and Grab as well. All pretty great stuff. They're gonna dive my Widow. They are. You can see, right, my damage isn't super great. I even got the jump on the Sombra. She didn't know I was coming from the back like that. But I just didn't finish her because my aim wasn't perfect, and you know the slower projectiles are actually really hard to hit up close like that. I believe they're also slightly affected, you know, by your momentum and whatnot. Holy shit! Yeah, Lucio is just a fun hero. Something I should mention is, unlike every other hero that just kind of works on ladder, because Lucio is all about supporting his team, kind of speeding them in and stuff, it is really hard to play Lucio on ladder unless you're at the higher elos or in a private lobby where everybody is communicating all the time. Right? Generally, you want to time your speeds, you know, your pushes together so that you can get the best use of his abilities. And if you're kind of not getting the maximum value of his dives, you might as well just go other characters who can either self-sustain more or sustain the team more. Right? If your goal is to kind of live with mobility, stuff like Moira will just generally give you more value. If your goal is to kill things, pretty much any other support is better than Lucio. Even Lifeweaver might debatably have more damage than Lucio. And that's just worth noting, right? He's generally pretty bad in lower elos where people aren't, you know, naturally communicating, because people in high elo don't necessarily need to communicate to get the value of Lucio. There's kind of a standard playstyle when you have a Lucio on your team, and all those Lucios are adjusted to that. Everybody in those games are adjusted to that as well. And as such, Lucio becomes a lot more playable, a lot more fun. But you can see a lot of people in the highest of high elos, a lot of people in top 500 actually play Lucio because you can do some, you know, not verbally coordinated pushes, but pushes that are coordinated nonetheless because they're just kind of obviously going to happen. But in stuff like Plat and Silver and all that, unless you're in a private team where you're all talking about stuff, you know, in like pugs or whatever, you're kind of discussing like, okay, let's push it now, 3, 2, 1, go. You know, people in Plat aren't going to be synced up enough to get the value that Lucio can give, and as such, he generally only gets value in the higher elo lobbies. Also, a lot of the people in low elo and Lucio don't even wall ride, and every time I see that, it's very sad to see, honestly. It is really hard. You know, generally I don't backseat game or whatever, but goddamn, whenever one of my like silver friends is just walking around his floor Lucio and just like, you know, speeding up like this and healing like this and just moving around like this, it's like, it's so slow, man. Look at how much slower I'm moving when I'm like this. Like, it's just like like, you're not even like playing Lucio. It's all about that speed. He's all about that, you know, fast pacing. It's all about jumping around, hopping around, having a fun time. On maps where you can boot people, that is like priority number one. It's very, very fun to do. But yeah, overall, great character design. I think I mentioned this in the Ana video. I think Ana and Lucio are the two least offensive heroes. There's just, you know, so much you can do about them. In Ana's case, there's a lot of counterplay, and it feels very fair to fight Ana. In Lucio's case, you don't even need counterplay because he's not really oppressive in any way. He just supports his team and makes everyone on his team better in ways that, you know, are different. He's like a synergizer. He benefits the more synergy your team has, the more beneficial it is to have a Lucio. That's why pretty much every pro team ever in Overwatch history, throughout the whole Overwatch League, outside of, you know, times when like Double Shield was extremely popular, or Bunker, where you just don't move at all and you don't really benefit from speed, pretty much outside of that, Lucio's always been the go-to support for every single Overwatch League team because he's built to support his team. He's built to benefit off of high synergy, right? When you and your teammates know exactly how you're all going to play, when you can coordinate dives perfectly and stuff, you will flourish with a Lucio on your team. If you have no clue what your teammates are going to do, you know, you're playing ladder, this is the first time you've seen them, you're not sure what their skill level is, they're not sure what your skill level is, Lucio won't flourish as well. He doesn't do too much on his own, but when combined with teammates, even just a Lucio and Ryan on their own can like single-handedly tear through an entire team. It's a very fun time. It's very reasonable to play against as well. I mean, you just have to be ready for it and kind of counterplay it, right? Either position better for it, or, you know, do something else. And yeah, I mean, that's really all I have to say about Lucio. Extremely fun hero. I love to play him. He has like a very high skill ceiling with all his wall riding and mobility and all that, all the while still being very simple and easy to kind of pick up to get started with and have a lot of fun with. And he's also very entertaining to watch. Kind of reminds me of Doomfist in a lot of ways, but on the support role. And with that out of the way, hope you all enjoyed and have a great rest of your day.